Why is inspiration important?
It doesn't matter how big your stone is, you can still make a big splash if you just work hard, if you just look for opportunity. The sky is the limit.
The problem with living on that edge is that there's going to be problems.
I'm learning from this failure, from taking these risks, and it's actually not failure, it's improvement.
You need to be inspired every day to get up, put your best foot forward, put on that smiley face even if you had the worst day of your life.
The more risk you take in trying some of the newest things, you might become one of the best companies to do that.
A question we often ask is, what problem are you trying to solve? And oftentimes that problem can be the inspiration for what you are trying to launch.
Sometimes it's really lonely to be a founder, and it's really lonely to be a CEO.
I heard someone say this once and it resonated so much, and they said, AI is not going to replace your job, but people who learn how to use AI.
Well, as we kick off, we're going to do some introductions. Our goal with this first panel is to not go deep into technology. It is to talk about the other stuff. It is to talk about inspiration, leadership. It's about all of those other things. So before we get started, we'll do some introductions so you guys know who is sitting up here and the perspective they're bringing. So we will start down on this end.
Good morning. Excuse me. I'm Lori Beauchesne, and I'm with Discovery Land Company. I have a lot of experience in the construction industry, and I currently lead construction innovation. I also am fortunate enough to teach a course at Texas A&M University where we talk about construction and innovation, and I love getting to inspire the next generation of leaders.
Awesome.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I'm Austin Lay. I'm with Layton Construction. We're a general contractor out of Salt Lake City. I oversee the reality capture technologies group there, so innovation and all things technology. So a lot of fun and excited to be a part of this.
Hello, everyone. My name is Diane Temple. I'm the president and CEO of the Idaho Technology Council. The council's been around for about 16 years in Idaho, and our role is to be the voice of industry. So we represent big tech, small tech, tech startups, our educators that are preparing our next tech workforce, as well as we travel the state and outreach and find amazing tech companies that have chosen to live in the smallest of towns in Idaho and bring them into our community. So excited to be here today, Matt.
Thank you.
I'm Travis Rinke. I'm the founder and CEO of Scannable. We're a visual effects company for film and entertainment. So my background in surveying, growing up in the house of a surveyor and measuring things with technology ultimately led to working in the movie industry, which I would have never imagined. And the lessons I've learned along the way, I think, are probably why I'm here on this panel. Hopefully I can give some insight and have a session later today that hopefully I can pass on, if anything, a lot of things not to do.
That's always good.
Yeah.
I'm Kara Van Sant. I'm the director of Boise State's Venture College. We are a program in the College of Innovation and Design. We aim to help entrepreneurs launch their businesses. You will see students, faculty, staff. We have free programming, so community members and students from across the state of Idaho come through. So really dedicated to helping others launch their brilliant ideas.
I'm Jason Young, the president and CEO of Archify. We're a full BIM service. We've been in business about a year. And again, it doesn't matter how big your stone is, you can still make a big splash. And happy to be on this panel with some amazing folks, including Matthew Bird himself. And thank you for having us all. And on behalf of the panel, we're excited to give inspiring words to the team.
Love it. Well, it's fun. A lot of people are hesitant to speak. I get that a lot for the podcast, or even panelists, where they're like, what am I going to say? What do I have to share? And I'm always like, don't worry about it. Like, everybody has value to give. Right. And that's why I love just having conversations. And this is kind of even setting the stage for what our panels are like often. They don't know the questions. There is no questions. This is organic conversation around the topic. And our goal is you got to hear the backgrounds of the people that are here. It's very diverse, from being in the university to nonprofits to construction. It's broad, so I'm excited. Let's start with the question, why is inspiration important? And/or how do we inspire the teams that we work around?
Well, in the entrepreneurial space, you need to be inspired every day to get up, put your best foot forward, put on that smiley face, even if you had the worst day of your life.
And it's showing your clients that no matter what adversity you have, you can still be successful, you can still grow, you learn, and you should be learning every day new tricks, new things. You know, we have a diverse panel here. I'm going to learn a lot today in the, you know, what inspires them to keep going every day. So.
Yeah, no, go ahead. No, you started. Go for it.
I would also say too, when you look at in the entrepreneurial space, kind of tying into that, a question we often ask is, what problem are you trying to solve? And oftentimes that problem can be the inspiration for what you are trying to launch. And when you're talking to your potential customers, your beta users, you want to make sure that what you are solving actually is a problem that needs solving. So it is that inspiration that ties through the theme of why are you launching your business?
Yeah, and I think along those lines, a lot of when I look back on my career, what drove me the most was my family, right? So that's one of the most inspiring things that I think we can easily lose track of in our careers, is that we work hard to support our family so we can do the things that we want to do and live the life we want to live. And a lot of times I've even found myself, getting caught more up in work and not being there for my family. And I think that throughout my career, that has had to be the focus. And they say, what is it? Find a way to make money doing something you love, and you never work a day in your life. I've been very fortunate to kind of, I've worked a lot of really difficult jobs, a lot of hard jobs, and somehow I made it into the movie industry, which is a whole different story that I'll hopefully get into a little bit later. But it all just kind of, it's like, we have such an opportunity here in America that if you just work hard, if you just look for opportunity, the sky is the limit. Anything you want to do, you can do. I'm a big believer in that, and I think that focusing on keeping your priorities straight and just being willing to follow whatever comes your way, right? Mm-hmm. Don't be afraid of failure. Big thing.
I love that. One of the things I tell myself, and I have yet to have a day end like I thought it was going to end when I started it. Am I the only one? It's like I get up, and what I mean by that is you need to be open to possibilities and also open to change and pivot, especially in the nonprofit world and just working with so many different sectors that we manage. It's not just one, right? It's tech startups and tech corporate and students. We work with a lot of the tech students, helping them find mentors. And so that in itself is extremely inspiring. But for me professionally, I've always tried to be open to what the day can be and how I go into it knowing that it's probably not going to end. I'm probably not going to get through my checklist, and because things, pivot and morph throughout the day. But just keeping that positivity of openness, of being able to pivot and just being nimble and open to that, I think also drives inspiration, because I think it allows your creativity to flow when you're not so structured that you're not open to those opportunities that may present themselves, that you just don't ever know what one phone call or what one conversation will connect to. And that in itself is inspiring. Just being here in this room today, I congratulate all of you. You're being intentional about being inspired. And so great question, Matt.
I like that. One thing that's said a lot, right, is half the battle is showing up.
Yeah.
I always tell people that there's so many people in our community or online that are like, oh, I love this. This is so important. And then it's like, I see who shows up, and I'm like, some of you say this over and over, but like, you never actually come. And half the battle is showing up. When you put yourself into the potential of conversations, the potential of meeting people, that's where change can happen.
Right. It's like the shots you never take, right?
Yes.
It's like putting in the reps. I remind my kids all the time that hard work does pay off. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Love it.
Yeah, I would say for me, I love everything that's been said already, so I'll just say something a little bit different, but problem solving, that's what inspires me, right? I think throughout this conference, you're going to hear from a lot of different people who are going to share cutting, bleeding edge ideas of technology. Well, I tell my teams all the time, the problem with living on that edge is that there's going to be problems. There's going to be issues that you have to work through, and it's not always going to be this perfect system. So I love going to work every day to be challenged by a problem that we have to solve. And that's inspiring, because as you come together collectively as a team, I mean, there's nothing more inspiring than that, than to know that your day you have solved a problem together with that team, and you're able to now move on to the next one.
Yeah.
I guess since we're going down the line,
It seemed like we did that.
I think that it's important to recognize that the people that are here and in this room are most likely innovators. They have an interest in innovation and doing things differently, but not everybody has that same mindset. I think it's really easy, and I see a lot, especially in construction. It's extremely busy out in the field, the day to day. It's easy to get set into our ways of doing things the same way. You get good at doing something, and then it's really hard to change. And so I think as innovators, we need to keep that in mind and approach people with these ideas with, some compassion and patience as we, work to inspire them. But we can be those people that are an inspiration to those who maybe aren't thinking in that direction.
Love it.
Matthew, may I say one more
Yes,
thing?
yeah.
We have students and CEOs, and we're speaking to everybody, including the students. We appreciate you guys coming, and there's a lot of room to grow in this space. So I just wanted to say that just when we're speaking, we are speaking to the students and the CEOs, because some of the CEOs may need to be inspired just as much as the students need to be inspired. So we're here for everybody,
I
okay?
need inspiration every day.
Yeah. Which is it is a cool mix. In fact, while we're on that note, not to stay on it long, but for the first time this year, we kind of had a partnership form with Boise State University. We've had the conference here, but we've not had a lot of integration or participation. And this year, we have professors they're closing out the conference with a panel full of professors from across all the divisions in the university, sharing about these technologies and emerging tech and digital twins within the university. And we actually opened it up, so throughout the week we have hundreds of students that are coming in to listen to these sessions, which goes back to some of our core purpose as a community, right? Is like, who are we inspiring? Who are we trying to talk about change and taking risks and innovating? It's the CEOs, and it's the asset owners, and it's the airport owners, and it's that high, but it's down to the students too, of like getting them into and understanding the needs and the opportunities. We hear everybody across the industry say like, oh, there's a lack of talent. There's a lack of people that are expert, coming into these technologies. So we're really making an effort to try to cross over in what we do. So excited to have that mix here. I have a question around how do you balance innovation versus chasing the shiny object?
Ooh, man, that's tough.
I would say it goes down to problem solving, because it's really easy, especially now. There's so many solutions. There's a lot of shiny objects.
So many.
And, it's really, what problem are you trying to solve? And understanding the problem first, and then selecting the best tool for the job versus like, that looks really cool, maybe we should try that. And I've also always felt that innovation can be more effective when you're building on other innovations that you've already put in place. So you kind of have to get good at some of the basics before you can just reach for that shiniest object.
And just to add to that too, it's one of our signature programs is the incubator, and we do so much customer discovery and validation. And I know that nobody wants to go do 100 interviews. I understand that, but those 100 interviews or more, as you're innovating, you always should be talking to that customer that you are targeting. And if you're hearing from a significant amount of them I wouldn't pay for this, then don't go pursue that. But instead, what is it? Okay, don't just listen to that, no, that's not something that I would pay for or I'm interested in, but then ask the question, what would you? And what would better solve the problem that you have expressed? And so it's really getting out there and talking to, and as much as you can, before you just jump in and build something, make sure that you validate it to help with resource. We're talking time, we're talking money. Get out there and do the work ahead of time, and as you're innovating throughout for that next launch or that next.
Yeah. And I'll say, having been in the laser scanning industry specifically for 25 years now, I mean, back in the day, it was $180,000 for a scanner that captured 40 degrees by 40 degrees at 1,000 points per second.
You really better have a
So
reason.
there's a lot of pressure of, hey, you just the bosses at the time, like, hey, we just spent a lot of money, make that widget fit all of, there's a lot of pressure to keep that thing busy. And so that was a big thing in the early days of laser scanning, is trying to get laser scanning to fit too many things, because we just had that, it was necessary to do that to stay alive, right? But VR, AR, Gaussian splats. Is it a shiny thing, or is it something we need to pay attention to? It takes a lot of time, takes a lot of energy to focus in those things. And I'll be honest, there's been so many times that, at least in my own company, where I've chased the shiny things and spent a lot of time and money only to it's a tough thing, because you never know what going down that path will lead to. Like, even in, you see Apple and Google, and they invent these things, and I don't see the purpose of it. It's not so much about that, it's what you learn from it and what the next step is. So I think it's that balance of chasing it, but not riding it, I guess.
Yeah, I would say too, trying to find what fits into your workflow, right? So from the construction aspect, one thing I always try to tell our teams is, like, as a technology, we're not trying to add burden or add work. We're trying to fit into what you're doing. And so I think so many times innovation has this stigma around it, like, well, if we're constantly innovating, that means that we're doing something important and good. I disagree with that. I think a lot of times you can do not the bare minimum, but innovation comes in different ways too. It's going down that path and discovering, okay, this actually isn't, like, can you be willing enough to say this isn't working and turn back? I think a lot of times we keep trying to shove that square peg into that round hole, because it's like, we've invested time and energy and money, so we have to make this work. And it's like, what, sometimes it's like, just walk away from it. And that's a tough thing to do. And I think a lot of times when we're talking about innovation, that's the key. And there's a technology fatigue sometimes that comes about it too, right? How many times do you get into LinkedIn or even online, and it's like 5 or 6 new products that kind of do the same thing, but not exactly the same thing. And then you're trying to find which of those products are going to fit what you're doing. So I think from my standpoint, when it comes to innovating, it's like, it's okay to be able to just, hey, this isn't working. We're gonna walk away. So
I think that what you said about, you're at that moment where, do you keep trying to fit, the square peg into the round hole? And we've all chased the shiny squirrel, right? We've all chased the shiny object. And there's nothing worse than getting to that walk away point and having someone in your circle say, I could have told you that wasn't, and so, like, when you talk about those 100 interviews, or when you talk about surrounding yourself with people that can speak into you, I mean, I've had that happen myself. I've had situations where someone said, XYZ, and I'm like, wow, it would have been really nice for you to have told me that 6 months ago or a year ago. And so it's so important to have a mentor that you trust, that when they speak into you, that they know what they're talking about. We launched TechBridge in the last year to connect tech students and tech entrepreneurs with mentors, because sometimes you don't always know, well, I don't want it to be my mother. She's going to tell me everything is great, even when it's not. And so you just really want to find that right person that helps you balance the innovation and the shiny object.
Yeah, selfishly, I'd say that's why I love the community that we're building. It's like, a lot of these problems that we point out of, like, well, did you get feedback, or did you do 100 interviews? It's like, well, does listening to me interview 100 people, help give you advice? And it's why I think having these conversations, sharing your story, whether it's on a panel, whether it's on a podcast, whether it's, if we collectively as a community, across everything that we're talking about, from trialing technology to talking about problem statements, to, if you don't just keep that information to yourself and you actually share it, well, now, if you did 100 interviews, you did 100 interviews, you did 100 interviews, but now in a community, we actually share those somewhere, we have 1,000 interviews to actually gather the data from. And that's what I think is so cool about opening up and sharing, is we help each other solve these problems across the industry.
And as an entrepreneur, the square peg round hole, we don't want to go down that rabbit hole too far. It costs money, time, energy, and effort. And we have to pull that Band-Aid off sooner. Do not surround yourself with yes people. That is the worst thing you can do as an entrepreneur, even as a student. Once you get those people boosting you up for all the wrong reasons, you're going to make mistakes along the way. Find a team that's going to challenge you along the way. And I'm sure everybody here has team members that will challenge them and say, hey, I think there's a better way, or I look at this. Doesn't mean you have to go down another rabbit hole. You can look at it as a holistic approach and say, well, that looks awesome, or this looks awesome. And then you can make an educated decision on which way you want to go. So you're not sitting there going too far down that rabbit hole and you just wasted $100,000 on a new technology you'll never use. So agree with everybody in the panel, absolutely.
Where do you think the bigger, not problem, challenge lies in the tech adoption? Is it top down or bottom up? Is it getting the actual workers and people on hands-on using the tech, or is it leadership buy-in of funding? Where's the biggest challenge in tech adoption?
The answer is yes.
Yeah.
The answer
Everywhere?
is yes. Next question. In the industry, there's some great tech out there, and everybody pushes new tech. And you have an amazing workers that are really good at, say, process piping or whatever it may be in that certain field. And cross-training them is very important, but how much can you cross-train somebody? You can't have a Swiss Army knife always. You have to have somebody that has an expertise in certain areas. And that's where you have to balance it. And it is truly there's no right answer to that question. It is yes, there's some great technology we should bring down, and then there's some people we should bring up to that technology, because it is just, in the vast space of technologies, there's just so much. You're overwhelming people, and you want to make sure you can support those people that you have on your team to be able to grow in your network, also cross-train in your network, but also make sure that they're not overloaded with, oh my gosh, I have to learn how many AU products are out there now and all these different M suites and everything else of these worlds. You have to stay in your lane a little bit sometimes as an owner and say, hey, we're going to use this, we're going to be experts in this, and you know what? We have partners. There's many CEOs out here that I'm looking forward to talking to today that, you know what, maybe they're experts in that, and I don't have to burden my staff who's perfectly in their lane. We're looking at other lanes, but why? We have some great opportunity here to network mingle, to partner with those people to accomplish that common goal. So,
Yeah, we were kind of talking about this backstage about the disconnect from the manufacturer's software and hardware and the people out here trying to use it all. And that's been a thing in our industry for years. And we've talked about it 10, 15 years ago, is that disconnect of the real world application. Like, why do I have to hit this button 5 times to just complete a task? Silly things like that. But, I think that's where, not to get too technological, but I think that's where AI will eventually change some things in that realm, because I see a world where eventually you will have a different piece of software that does exactly what you want, because we have the ability to create that. So
Personalized software adjustment.
personalized software, yeah.
Yeah.
It's already happening in media world.
I think it's 2 different challenges, like to that point, because you have leaders who have a certain need and purpose for using technology. And then you have, people who maybe, like at least in construction, who are working in the field who have a different use. Theirs may be able, to create efficiency and to make their job easier and accomplish things faster, while the leaders might, just be looking at it from a budget perspective. How is this going to save me money? And I think that's really important to consider when you're thinking about tech implementation or innovation, because, what is your end goal? What does that person need to know about it? What's important to them? And then on the other side, you have processes and how's it going to fit into their day-to-day and all of those types of things. And so when you talk about inspiring different people on the spectrum, like, you have to have a different conversation, and what you're talking about might be completely different.
Right.
Well, and we're seeing in what I call tech adjacent, right? Industries that have a product or service, but they need the technology. And when we don't see executive leadership being early adopters, but yet their staff are early adopters, and it does cause fragmentation within an organization, and they risk those early adopters that are in their team potentially leaving and going to work somewhere else because they don't feel supported by leadership. So I think it's super important that, you asked it, bottom up, top down. Well, we know that a lot of our technology is coming in bottom up. But we really have to work with our executive leadership to say you have to be open to that early adoption, especially you mentioned AI, because things are emerging so quickly. So it's certainly something that we are trying to work with a lot of our members to be open. And I think you made a point that there's a lot of, bring in an expert, right? It's okay for a CEO to not understand all the things. They have a lot other things to manage, right? But bring in those experts.
Don't recreate the wheel.
Don't recreate the wheel. Bring in a consultant.
That's it.
Yeah.
So actually expanding on that thought and note a little bit is how do we actually improve that culture in a company? Like, I think there's a lot of companies that some of these people out here, some of us, have been the innovator or the champion, but like the rest of the company struggles to actually adopt or to take the risk or want to invest in the time. Like, what are some ways that you have or you have seen or you think can help actually impact that culture if someone is in that position?
I think you have to show people the proof, right? Because I think we can sit on a call or we can sit in a presentation and somebody can show you how this particular piece of software works and it's perfect in that atmosphere, right? But one thing I like to challenge companies is, all right, let's get it on site and let's see how it works, because 9 times out of 10, there's going to be an issue or a fault. And at that same time, I try to invite not only our executives, but obviously the project team to it. And so it's a holistic view of everybody looking at it. And I think in that regard, that's how innovation for our company has really grown quickly, because now you're seeing it from the executive side and you're seeing it from the field side. And then when those two come together, it's great. The other thing I'd say too, though, is money, right? It's hard to go to a project that's 16 months into a 30-month schedule and say, hey, I got this piece of software, but it's going to cost X amount of dollars. Budgets are already finalized at that time. It's a little bit harder. So it's good to try to, we like to try to pilot something on a small project and then move it and scale it that way. Because at that point, then we can start to get into those pre-con discussions and with those teams and say, okay, this is going to cost X amount, budget for it. And at that point, it's a lot easier for the adoption to happen. And I've seen it both ways, where the top down is great. The problem is sometimes with the top down, people feel like they're being forced to do something from their superior. When it's from bottom up, it feels like those people are really pushing hard to like make it happen. So you have to find that like perfect medium, middle space, to like have that coexist. And I'm not saying that I'm perfect at it, but we're trying our best to find that middle ground between both.
Yeah, I think as individuals, you, at least looking back over my career, you kind of have to take a risk as well. But the money part of it comes into play. Like I worked for an engineering company, and I remember they had like an annual, you submit, some type of technological thing that you wanted to do, and they would all vote on it. And this is like 2004, 2005, and they were coming out with quadcopters, right? And I thought, aerial photography, aerial photogrammetry, this would be great. And they wouldn't buy off on it. And now that boss that I had that denied it at that time owns a survey company that primarily does photogrammetry and drone surveying. So I of course didn't have the money to do that on my own, but it is sometimes on the individual side, sometimes you have to just take a risk and try to see how you can step out of your comfort zone and try to make things happen best you can. Yeah.
And I think that's where, innovation and new tech adoption, right? It is also, in some ways, it is like risk versus reward, right? Those that want to be the earliest adopters of technology versus, right, the laggards, right, of the large percentage have already proved it, they're already using it. The more risk you take in trying some of the newest things, you might find the thing that breaks off that really becomes, you might become one of the best companies to do that. And it does become a business decision per company of like, how early of an adopter are you willing to be? Now, that's both a financial and, there's more risk involved, but it's kind of a individual decision.
And if I could just add to that too, when you talk risk specifically, I think a lot of times that's actually when I would turn to leadership, because is it a culture that allows the risk taking? When I stepped into this director role, I will never forget, it was probably the most powerful conversation I've had with my managers. I was with the associate dean and the dean at the time, and I stepped in, and it was right in we went from essentially a 3-person to a 1-person team because others went to pursue their business or onto another another role, and it was in our busiest season. And I'll never forget sitting down, and as somebody who cares deeply about results and who cares deeply about impact and all the details, and here I have my manager say, it's okay to fail. And it was one of those, I was like, well, no, it's not okay to fail. And they're like, no, we want you to fail forward, to fail fast, to take risks, try new things. Venture College was founded in 2013. They're like, you don't have to do everything the way it's been done. Figure out what's working, figure out what's not, how can we improve it? And for me, in that moment, I was like, I still don't know that I'm okay failing.
Yeah.
But then I learned, actually, I'm learning from this failure, from taking these risks, and it's actually not failure, it's improvement, and it's helping me prioritize. So I think that is when I would lean on leadership of, is it a culture that it's okay to take the risks?
Depends on your leadership.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I tell people too, like, there's a lot of cultures that aren't. And that's where I try to tell the innovators in companies, it's like, not telling you to all go quit your jobs, but if you find yourself being that innovator of like, I want to try this new thing, I want to push the boundaries. That was my journey. I was in corporate and I only stayed for 10 months because I was like, I want to go faster. I want to try things that you don't want me to do. I want to work in an industry that you're not in. And so I think it's okay for people to realize, like, not every company has to be the innovative company. There's a time and place for how innovative, how risk-taking, how much they'll invest in it. And if you find yourself being like, I really believe in this, I want to go further, I want to try new things, find a company that is the culture. And if you're not, that's okay. There's room and there's need for everybody, right? All the individual roles that focus on the one thing they do, and those that want to push the bleeding edge and fail forward.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Okay. What about the thought of, and I know this question comes up a lot for AI, but it also comes up for all technologies. The thought and mindset around technology replacing jobs as it continues to grow, and it's, and that goes all the way back to, in the survey industry, right? Originally afraid of, like, man, the drone is going to map this site in one day where our crews get to spend a week of time. Well, now fast forward, right? There's a lot of people really actually concerned that in a few years, no jobs will be needed because AI is going to take, how do we look at that?
Well, I can say, from our industry, AI, of course, is a huge concern, and the ability to just prompt and get video and content, and everybody in the film industry is definitely concerned, and understandably, in the end, who's going to want to watch an AI generated movie? I mean, that's part of it. It's like the art, right? It's the art of creating a story and creating a visual way of portraying that story, and that I think we all are attached to. Now, a generation or two from now, who knows? But the one thing that I always come back to is, like, we are capture companies, right? We are tasked with, whether it be surveying for residential and selling a house and locating the corners and documenting, if there's any encroachments and all that kind of stuff, or if you're doing topography to build a new land development or whatever it is, we're all out there capturing. And that's the one thing AI doesn't have, is locality. AI can't be out there capturing this information. So that at least buys us a few years.
Yeah, I think too, though, to that point, I heard someone say this once and it resonated so much, and they said, AI is not going to replace your job, but people who learn how to use AI will replace your job. And I think it's important to recognize that, because if there's a tool out there that can speed up the process of what you're doing, then that's what's going to be helpful.
Yeah.
I'd also say automation on top of that. Once you start to automate things and then you add in the AI component, that's when you're really going to see a big shift in kind of the workforce industry. I mean, 5 years ago, I sat in a conference and watched a dock drone not happen, but one was there. 5 years ago, I thought that was 10 years in the future. We're here now. We have 8 or 9 of them flying on projects. The time that has saved our project engineers from having to physically unfold the drone, set it down, launch it, pull the SD card out, that whole process is now eliminated, which now frees him up to do RFIs and all these different other things he should be focusing on. So I don't know that, it could at some point replace what we're doing, but I think right now it's just helping with some of the everyday tasks. And I think, and it's interesting because 10 years ago I would have told you like, well, technology is definitely innovated and ran through the younger generation. But I work in a field where a lot of our older superintendents are very, tech adverse, and they understand it and they see it, where some are not. And the ones that are not are the ones who throw their iPad because they're frustrated. And it's like, that's just a tool to help you. It's not here to like, make your life harder. So I think being nimble and being willing to adapt, I think, is what's going to be key to the AI and things like that.
And what if we shifted the question from will AI take my job to what more can I accomplish with AI? And think about it's the time and the efficiencies that you save. So now what opportunities does that open for you to do that you wouldn't have had without it?
And that's like a point we made on the podcast was Henry Ford used to build cars with pencils, and now it's all automated. And the construction industry is always 30 to 50 years behind in everything. Well, it's speeding up very quickly with the help of AI and learning AI, learning new tools. It's making us more efficient, but also we need to be cognizant of what's the next step in the next 3 to 5 years. We're not looking at that 10-year mark anymore. It's truly 3 to 5 years. What's going to come from AI, and it's truly the people that learn AI and embrace it instead of saying, oh, that's just a fly-by-night kind of thing. No, it's not. I believe it's here to stay, and it's going to make things a lot more efficient, but also there's still going to be a human element to it. We still got to feed it the data correctly. We still got to tell it exactly kind of where it's at. We're embracing it. We're using it. We love it, but we also know its parameters. You have to know what you can do with AI and what you can't do with AI. So no more LinkedIn posts from AI.
Yeah, at least for a little while, we'll still need humans to check the AI results.
Correct.
Yeah. Oh, sometimes it gets wild.
Well, and I think that you're right. That's come out a lot in the media. Is it going to take jobs? Is it not going to take jobs? Yes. So I think it's really, I think a lot of you all, like I don't have a lot to add to a lot of your answers other than that as a tech student or as someone looking to upskill, reskill, stay in the workforce, change jobs, start a business, and all those things, is just really identifying what does the new workforce look like and how do I need to fit into that to maximize where I want to be in my career. So I think that it's always going to be a yes answer. It is going to replace some jobs, and in some cases it's never going to replace some
And
jobs.
create jobs also.
And create jobs, right? So I love that you talked about the efficiencies, right? You're saving so many times, which allows your company to grow. As you grow, you will need more staff in addition to that. So I think, it's a both and. Yeah.
Back on the thought of like you mentioned LinkedIn posts, and you talking about who wants to watch an AI generated movie. I think that this isn't really about just maybe tech or built environment specific. It's actually kind of just broad back to those topics. Is the more the AI grows and the more that everybody's using it, the more desire there will be for people also not using it.
Yeah.
Back to like, how much are you going to pay for this AI generated image versus how much does a hand painted piece of art from 50 years ago sell for, right? People love the human people side of things.
It's the pendulum swing.
Yeah. And so I encourage people, like I use AI so much, even to the basics of ChatGPT, right? For idea creation, for, formulating certain thoughts that I have that I'm like writer's block or whatever, but personalize it. Like the thing I just posted about on LinkedIn, it was like, oh my gosh, it's getting gross at this point of like so many people, all they do now is a fully generated, a very obvious ChatGPT post where it's like everything's the same, and it's like, do I really want to read something that's just completely generated? No, but again, if it's a tool that helps you share your thoughts and you actually personalize it, you're using it just as a stepping stone, it's very different.
Now we all have to go read your LinkedIn posts and see if we can tell.
Shameless plug.
Yeah, every once in a while. I am going to start integrating a few questions from audience, and some of these might hit on topics that we've already talked about a little bit, but I want to pull some of these in as well. With the inevitable stumbling blocks of introducing new technology, how do you continue to inspire innovation in teams?
It's keeping an open mind and open mindset of saying, it's okay, we're going to fail on a few things, but that's okay. We're learning as we're growing, and it's keeping that inspiration to keep going and learning and falling forward. Perfect example is we're going to fail, but we're going to fail. I don't like the word fail. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's true.
We're going to make mistakes along the way, and we're going to learn from those mistakes and grow from that and inspire change, inspire a culture in my company that's going to say, I don't care if you've been with the company a day or 5 years, what's your idea? Where do you see this company? And we have weekly meetings that say, hey, anybody see a new technology out there? Anybody see a new innovation out there? What's inspiring you today to wake up and show up to my company? That's the kind of what resonates with that. So.
Yeah, I don't think we can drill it home hard enough that you need to accept failure. Like if I look back on my career, I used to be so afraid of failure. I felt like if I failed, it showed that I was inadequate. And I look back now and I see that so many things that I wouldn't be where I am today had I not failed. I learned more from the failure than I did than attending a conference or seeking out to learn a software or a piece of hardware or something. It's those failures that will show up at like the oddest time. Like, oh, here's a problem. Oh, I remember when I was 15, I broke my dad's computer, and here's how I fix it. All of a sudden, I know how to solve this solution because of that failure.
There's a famous quote too that says, you learn more from your failures than you do your biggest wins.
Right.
And that resonates with me. Absolutely. Because truly, when you're winning, you don't see what you've missed. But when you fail, you see every single step that you've done to...
You log it.
You log it, yep. And you make sure that doesn't happen again.
Well,
as best as you can.
Yeah, I was just going to say that too. It's just think of who you become on that journey to failure, right? Like I have young kids and they play sports, and I always tell I think this drives my wife crazy because I want my kids to be the best at what they're doing. And it's not because I want them to feel like they have all these accolades, but it's because when you become the best at something, you have to fail to get there, right? And so I think in tech, and I relate that to technology, is if I look at what I'm trying to do every day as being the best for my company, well, there's going to be a lot of failure that goes along with that. And so, but to these points, like you learn so much through that failure. Mm-hmm. And then when you go to test the next thing or you go to innovate the next thing, you're going to say to yourself, okay, we tried this already. Let's maybe take the good from that and try it a little bit different. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah. Back to like, I love the Michael Jordan, right? It's like, well, everybody knows for your wins, but how many failures did you have? Like, right? He would say, yes, they know I've won X amount, but I've lost 20 times that. I think something that also is important is sharing the lessons of the failures. And it goes back to a lot of how we've built this community is by sharing. It is by, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, as I started getting into scanning, I was on LinkedIn, I was sharing screenshots, I was talking about it. And then there's not a lot of people in the industry that do that, right? Yeah. If we want to improve each other, right, it goes back to like case studies and stuff with this community. It's like, don't just share the wins and the awesome work your company's doing. It's like, talk about the struggles that you have. Talk about the difficulties with the software. Why do I have to click sharing the failures even helps those that are developing the technology think about, okay, we keep hearing this failure, XYZ, here's how we can address it and how we can improve it. So, using the failures as an opportunity to educate everyone in the company, I think is important.
On the flip side, it's that thing as parents and dealing with our kids, it's like, hey, here's a bunch of things you shouldn't do because they're not going to turn out right. But they're going to do it anyway. Yeah. So, yeah. You have to be, they're going to go through it.
I was just going to say, I kind of like to have like a process for innovation. And I think it helps with that mindset where like if you kind of know this is how we're going to work through this and have an expectation that it may not all work out, and that's okay. So like setting that expectation up front, but also having a plan and like how do we know when we're successful? And then having that plan in place to track, the failures along the way, what was successful along the way, because you might have like small failures and successes along the way. It's not necessarily just this one success at the end or this ultimate fail. It's like, kind of taking the time to track it throughout the process, I think is really important. And then also to be able to share that in the end and say, here's what worked and here's what didn't.
There's some amazing questions up there.
Yeah. Let's do.
We have because there's some great.
Let's do this one. I like this. Would be curious to hear any stories of lost inspiration. For how long did you fake it? When and why did you eventually allow yourself to make a change, or did, win that inspiration back?
Oh man, I'm sorry, I have to jump in here. So a lot of people don't know my background. 4 years active duty military. I give a lot of my credit to them because it gave me some core values that I live by today, and it's actually my company's core values now. When I owned a restaurant, 27 years old, right out of the military, no experience. Didn't know I could burn a steak. I couldn't even boil water. And we grew so fast. I started at like 20 grand. We've ended up with like a $3 million steakhouse, bought a marina, bought a liquor store, bought some racehorses. And these were the wins we were just talking about. We grew so fast. We had celebrities at our place. Everything's going great. And COVID came, and everybody knows what happened in COVID in New York. Complete lockdown. If I opened my steakhouse, I'd be arrested. That's the severity of it. And I thought everything was lost. I went into a spiral. How do I continue to pay 160 employees, continue to run the marina that connects Albany to Montreal, so many different factors, and I lost hope. And I lost my drive. And it is suicide awareness, so please, if you're fighting a battle, continue to fight it. There's a lot of help out there. And you see your darkest days sometimes. And to get out of those darkest days, you have to reinvent yourself, re-inspire yourself to do good. And during that time, I drove all the way to Houston on my own dime to help during the Hurricane Harvey. And I know it was a little bit before the COVID hit, but you do good for others. It is the best thing you can ever do. And it reinvented myself. So I sold everything during COVID at a very nominal because it was COVID day. I'm selling a restaurant that can't open, a marina that can't open, an RV park that can't open. The only thing that was doing good was the liquor store, and that can't pay all the bills. And I reinvented myself, and I opened up a nationwide coffee company during COVID. We're in 38 states, oil fields of Alaska. We're still in business today. It's absolutely monstrous. I gave that company away to a couple in Atlanta because I saw them struggling and they needed a purpose in life. I gave that company away to them because that's who I care about. And that's what we do with customers. So you always do good in the world. You project it out there and good will come back to you. And that's how I continue to inspire myself to keep going, because I've been through those trenches. I've been through those horrible, horrible times to lift myself out of it. And again, when you surround yourself with yes people, that is the worst, because it will sink you lower than your lowest lows. So not to take over the panel, but that was one way I got out of my own trenches to lift myself up to where I am today. So, and nobody can never take me down from that. So
Yeah, awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, you take that story and apply it to my life. It's very, very
same.
similar.
We've had conversations.
And I'll be honest with you, I think there's a lot of I think there's comfort in knowing that you're not alone, right? So I can tell you, I still battle this every single day. This is such a great question, because I got to the point where I got off social media, because as a business owner, and then COVID, and then the Hollywood strike of 2023, and the entire industry shut down for 7 months, and I have millions of dollars invested in technology in a specific field, and man, you wake up just like, oh my God, what did I do? How do I find purpose again? So, hopefully there's some comfort in our stories to let you know I'm up here faking it right now, if that makes you feel any better. Yeah, every day it's like, it's a struggle, and I turned 50 this year. So then there's, additional, whatever that brought, it's just like doubt and like fear of failure. And so you just, that's the human element is probably the most powerful thing. If you can just get up and do something good and just say, hey, how can I make a difference in someone's life today? I started that this morning. Like, how can I hope that something stupid that I say and something that I bring out and the failures that I've gone through will somehow impact someone today? And Matt is a great example. When he started coming around, he was just a kid. I don't even know how long ago that was. It's like, hey, here's this new guy that's just like really gung ho, and he's like, we had a we had an industry band back in the day as a spar.
Maybe 13 years ago or so.
Yeah, it feels like it. And it was the most crazy thing. Like all of us, we wouldn't see each other for an entire year. And somehow we thought, hey, let's get together and play music at this industry event. And like with no practice, just get up and make fools of ourselves. And Matt just kind of showed up, and it was just like, it was just like this breath of fresh air. And he just like fit in, and he was just a sponge, like asking us questions, all of us old timers at the time. And to come up to be here now, it's my first time at the conference, to see what you've created and to see you take the reins and just like keep going. I mean, that's hopefully a good inspiration to everybody as well.
Yeah, and I don't need to share my whole story. You can watch it on a podcast or something. But like that's part of what my journey was, right? And that's why I want to inspire other people so much. Is I was 18, I was in a land surveying role, and I did not like my work. And then the technology came around, and I got so excited about it. I got to go learn from other people, and I've seen what can come from getting passionate about your work, applying yourself, sharing that, being public, sharing on social. And so, that's why I love the fact of bringing students in it, right? And sharing some of these stories is like, you shared it in that video, you can do anything you can imagine, right? If you apply yourself and you know that you're going to fail, you work through those failures, anybody could make change.
Absolutely, 100%.
I think if I could just add one small thing to that, is I think it's so important to know that asking for help is not a sign of failure. And I love that thank you for being vulnerable and sharing your story on this public stage, because I think we need to hear more of that. Like, I don't know, maybe I was raised by a generation of parents that it's like, you have to be tough. You don't cry in public. You don't air your laundry outside of the house, right? But I think that for us to be a healthier culture, we need to be willing to be vulnerable and be transparent, and not just like, I think, not even intentionally, but I think we look at successful people and we think, oh my gosh, they have it all. You know what? Sometimes it's really lonely to be a founder, and it's really lonely to be a CEO. And you don't feel that you can always be weak or show signs of struggle, when really, when you are open to other people and let other people support you, is when you can actually rebound quicker from those trials. I just think it's so important to think about. It's not a sign of weakness.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
To say I'm not okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would also just add to that, like, find a mentor, right? Someone you can like talk to. It's funny to be back here in not in this stage, but in Boise. 10 years ago, we were up here. Our company's building an addition to the hospital here, and we were there. And I had met a man that day who was, funny enough, like an account rep for Autodesk or something like that. And we ended up having this really long conversation, and then we went to dinner that night, and it was a great conversation. And we just kind of stayed in touch ever since then. But that man has become such a mentor to me. And in these moments where I feel any of these things or not, it's good to sometimes talk to an outside perspective, right? It's easy to go to someone in your company and say, hey, I'm really struggling, because I think you're going to get that, well, hey, like, things will be okay, like, the company's doing well or whatever. But when you can have an outside influence, and we all have families, spouses, parents, like, those are all great, but sometimes you just need someone who honestly doesn't know. I think someone said this, your mom and dad are always going to say the perfect thing,
awesome.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I love that about my mother, but at the same time, I need someone to be honest with me. Sometimes I need someone to sit down and say, this is what you really should be thinking about. Or my mom's going to say something super nice and make me feel super good, but at the same time, it's like, I need that third party, almost, I hate to say third party, but a third person perspective of a mentor. So, I've told him since, like, hey, I appreciate this. I really view you as a mentor. And I don't think there's anything wrong with even asking somebody to be your mentor. It's kind of that vulnerability thing. So
Yeah.
If I could add to that too, I would say there's certain things that I kind of have found myself, especially in the last probably 5 or 6 years, that I really live by, and it is, you show up on the hard days. And it's hard. It's hard, but you get out of bed. You show up on the hard days. I have told myself, you don't make any big life-changing decisions on the hardest days, but rather you find that mentor, you find that person that you can call that can help you navigate to make a decision that does have the impact that you ultimately hope. But if you make that decision in the panic moment, it's probably not going to give that ultimate goal that you had hoped to. And so those are two. And then don't be scared to ask for help. That's a big one that I think. And then what can you control? So if you look at your job and you don't feel like you have the space to innovate, I'd highly recommend that you look into what can you control? What are you passionate about? Where in your role do you want to make a change? And what does that change look like? And so that for me, shaping it around, okay, what is in my control? Because I can't change maybe something at the top, but I can impact my day to day. So I think those are several things that I kind of lean into.
Fantastic question.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah, we're getting close on time here. I know there's so many great questions. And I hope that, again, the questions we don't get to answering, right? The hope is that each day we have these panels, we have these presentations. Yes, you're listening. Yes, you're engaging. But this is also why we put on long happy hours every evening. Is don't just sit in here and listen and then everybody dissipates. Spend time after the conference, connecting, meeting, continuing these conversations. And again, slightly selfishly, but not because it's still about you guys, back to some of the things that were just talked about of like sharing these deeper stories and the importance of doing so. That's why we do the podcast, right? Everything that we're launching or doing right now, they all intersect in some way. When you meet people here at the conference, even on the panel, right, you hear 10, 20, 30 minutes worth of conversation. We don't really know your struggles you've been through. We don't really know your background. That's why the podcast exists, right? It's our chance to say, okay, I met you at the conference. Maybe I've even known you for 10, 15 years, but have we really sat and dug that out? And are you willing to share that with thousands of people, right? To make that change, to inspire. That's part of why we made some recent change with our podcast, where it used to just be the RCN podcast, and we really focused on just the technology. And this year, we made a change where we now have 2 podcasts. We have our editorial director, Ellis, that hosts the Recap podcast, which is still really technical focused. But I made this change personally to a personal brand podcast, where I'm like, I want to talk about things that are not just technology. I want to have people on that are not just in this industry. I want to bring a student in and have them on a podcast. I want to have a professor. I want to hear life stories that are outside of this industry, because that's what's inspired change for us. If I didn't follow other people outside of our industry, I would have never started a podcast. It would have never grown to starting a conference. I don't have time to go to another question. I want to end with letting each person share kind of a final thought, around what we've talked about, or maybe even something we didn't hit on that's on your mind for this last 3 minutes. So let's start at the end. We'll start down here. We'll make our way across.
My final thought would be, first, thank you all and the panelists. It's been awesome conversing with you and hopefully giving you guys some insight on who, what, why, and kind of why we're up here. Don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to fail. If you're not happy where you're at, change. There's so much time to change. And I turned 40, it's a big milestone for me. And the life that I've lived, multiple lives in different realms, this is the best one. And you can recreate yourself at any given moment. So please don't feel like you're stuck where you are. You're not. There's always opportunity, even if you're a CEO. You can always go do something else also. Or if you're a student, there's so much out there. Just show up, be present, okay? That's my final thought.
Yeah, I want to echo the thanks. This has been such a wonderful experience. And I would say my final thought is, if there's something that you're wanting to do, if there's something innovative that has been on your mind, think about what's preventing you from doing it, and who in this room can you connect with this week and help maybe take that next step. And just know that at Venture College, we always say, we will not pretend to know everything, because we don't. But if you connect with me on LinkedIn, happy to help you connect with maybe that individual who can help you take that next step. So encourage you to do it.
Yeah, Matt and I have obviously known each other for a long time, and he's been trying to get me up here for years. And I'm just so thankful that the stars align, and I'm happy to be here to be able to contribute and be a part of what you've built. And so thank you for that. I'll bring it back to more of a personal level, just because that's kind of where I live, and it's all about, family and stuff for me. And it's, it's like I tell my kids, it's like, back to the question we were just trying to answer, is that it can be very overwhelming, especially if you're on social media, especially if you look at that first thing in the morning, you see all these people posting all the great things they're doing, but they're not talking about the failures. They're not saying, oh, hey, I really struggled today. I couldn't get out of bed. I stayed in bed all day. I mean, that's stuff that we all deal with. But if you carve it out into not worrying about all your failures, not looking back and just getting overwhelmed by everything, like what can I do right now? What can I control now? What do I have control over? What can I do? All right, I can get out of bed. All right, now what's next? I can drink some, that's my thing, I drink some coffee. Then everything starts to kind of come into focus. So you'd just be surprised what caffeine will do. But don't be overwhelmed by by life and and other people's success, because there's a lot of other stuff behind the scenes. So try to just carve out, little by little, and find a way to do what you want to do.
For me, just continue to grow your network. Be intentional about talking to people today that you don't know. Be intentional about connecting with us at the Idaho Tech Council. We really want to be that connector for you. When we launched TechBridge and saw how many tech students really wanted a mentor, right now we just need mentors. Our mentors are doing triple duty right now because of how many students and tech startups are looking for mentors. So I do believe that everyone should have a mentor, and at some point in their life they should also be one. I believe in that. We've talked a lot about mentorship today, and I always think about when you have those great ideas, you think, if not me, then who? And if not now, then when? And just really challenge yourself to step into the fear of entrepreneurship, and certainly connect with Kara. The Venture College is one of the best first places that you should start when you are thinking about launching a business.
Yeah, I'll just add my thanks as well. It's wonderful. It's my second time up here doing this, and I've also been on the podcast, so it's a great environment. I would say, bringing it back to a family level as well, I tell my kids all the time the same thing my dad always told me, which was, Rome wasn't built in a day. And I always hated when my dad said that, because that meant like, this problem isn't going to get solved right now, or this thing isn't going to be learned today. You're going to have to work at it. And it took until I was probably in my early 20s when I realized that everything my dad had taught me was actually right. I think up to that point, I think I knew everything.
This is on camera.
Yeah. He knows. We've had conversations. But my point is, I would say, and you take that into the tech space, into the innovation space, like, it's pretty rare that you're going to come across something that's going to click and work day one, right? Everything's going to take time, and it's going to have a little bit of massaging and a little bit of frustration that goes along with it. So I would just say, don't get discouraged, because discouragement is part of the growth.
Last but not least, I would just say that you're always going to have naysayers, and there's always going to be people who are resistant, and to not let that be something that creates a roadblock, because ultimately innovation is all about people and communication and bringing people together. So I like to bring the naysayers into the room and ask lots of questions, understand where they're coming from, because it's really about helping others and solving problems for people. And so I think the only way to do that is together and through those conversations.
Love that. Thank you. I love all your shares. It all summarizes up to, innovation is not, you don't win. Back to Rome wasn't built in the day, right? I tell people all the time, with initiatives we launch, with committees, with trying to build standards, it's like, this is a long-term game. And that's why, to me, building a community is so important, as opposed to just a conference or just a podcast. It's like, become part of this community, because over time, that's where change is going to happen. You have to be patient. You have to keep taking one step at a time, and we will see the change. Thank you very much. Give a hand to our first panel. Appreciate you guys.
Thank you.